Freddie and I bought our first rental property. Totally.
What?
Yeah, we got our first rental property. We're working with a company that flips the house, puts in all new electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and then they have a property management company already put a renter in it for a year, and we have total income with no effort
Wow.
per year. Yeah, we are getting a 10% cap rate and a 20% cash on cash return, 29%.
Wow. Congrats. Look at you
Nice.
guys.
That was like such a big deal for us.
That's a big deal. You are now officially part of the slumlord community. Well done.
No, it's so exciting. I love it. It's in Cleveland, Ohio, in a very blue collar neighborhood, and so we were able to pick it up for like $70,000.
Nice. Nice. I would encourage you to do a few things on rental properties in terms of covering your butt and protecting yourself, those kind of things. So if you ever want to know from my years of doing that
I
business,
will get on your calendar.
very good. Very
Get
good.
it. And my other thing is that I have redesigned my business model. I've been really
Redesign your what?
my business model
Okay.
for my business. So I have added in, I don't know, have you ever heard of bank code? So basically what it does is it hacks your personality in 90 seconds or less, and it tells you what your client's buying behavior is in 90 seconds or less. So instead of just speaking what makes sense to you, you can actually speak to what they're listening to. And I realized as the clarity person, I'm like, oh my God, I'm guessing on people, like how I'm selling to people. And I'm like, what if I just talk their language? So I got out and I did my first presentation for 30 people to rave reviews, which was awesome. And
Nice.
now I'm incorporating that, and I'm going into different companies and helping them bridge communication so they can increase their sales. And then I'm tacking on with my proposals all my clarity stuff on the back end.
Awesome. I love it. Very cool.
I'll share it with you.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. You have to share it with the group on the Facebook page or something to better understand what that's all about. So
Yeah, I'll have everybody crack their code for free. Then you get a whole personality report. And the cool part is, once they do it on the group, I'll send you the report I get on how to sell to you. Like, here's everything you say. Here's what you do not say. It's really cool.
But there's one thing I have to tell you is that you're going to have to add a fifth category, and that's where Chad will fit in.
Yes, that is the anomaly.
things Chad shouldn't say, but does anyway. Yes.
So yeah,
Just ignoring all of it. Very cool. Awesome. All right, Bart, you had a celebration as well?
Yeah, I'm flying out to California tomorrow, and meeting with my Mexican counterpart to really get the ball rolling in Mexico with the stem cells.
wow.
Awesome. Let's hear it. Yes.
Very cool.
That's a big move. I love it. Very cool. And as people
What
are
part of California, Bart?
Yeah, not by you. Nobody. No.
Yeah.
You have no power up there.
Well, where are you, Katie?
I'm in Visalia, which is in central, like literally right in the middle.
Like, well, I'm at one of the other ends.
What?
I'm
You're
at one of
down,
the other
Yeah.
ends. Wherever.
You're in SoCal. She's in Central.
I'm just
Actually,
kidding.
you're in NorCal. You're NorCal. You're not Central. You're Northern California.
No, no, I'm not.
Yes,
Chad,
it is.
No, actually, technically, Visalia would be Southern California, but literally, if you took a map of California and put your finger right in the middle of it, like horizontal and vertical, chances are you would land on Fresno.
I lived there when I was at Camp Pendleton. I know everything about California there is to know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know it all.
No. And that was probably a really long time ago.
Ow. Wow. All right. Okay, so here's my celebration because it was really funny. So awesome for Bart. Keep us posted, and I wish you well. Yeah. So my stepsister, who is now a stepsister of a couple years, I guess, is significantly younger than me. So much so that she needed some information because she's applying to go into the Navy. And I said, her name's Katie. I said, Katie, you realize that you're going in while I have been out of the Marines for over 25, maybe 30 years. I said, thank you for making me feel ancient. Then we have Katie Williamson here, who we were talking, and I shared my 20-year goal so that when I'm 70, and I went, oh crap, when I'm 70, Katie's 20-year goals would be when she's 50. Thank you, Katie's, for making me feel ancient. So, yeah.
You're
That's awesome.
welcome.
All right, so here's my real celebration. Is yesterday was my son had no school. It was a Jewish holiday, so he had the day off, and I took the day to just spend with him. I can't get those back. You can't do-overs there, and so I went, nope, I'm going to take the day, and we went to the Japanese gardens. Then we went and saw a movie and had lunch. It was an awesome day, and then we actually went to the gym and worked out. So just a thank you. Yes, I'm excited and proud of having that experience and saying, what are the characters? How do I need to behave if I want to be super dad? And so that was an example of living up to that standard. So,
Wow.
Awesome.
yes, thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Here, Katie's.
Katie, let's hear Kate. Just one.
Okay.
Don't limit.
That's fine. The second one was going to be about you, but I'll just the one then.
We'll make that one about me. No, this is about celebrating. There's no rules. Go for it. Let's hear it.
So my first celebration is that I don't think I talked to this group about it yet, but I have one of my friends actually wants to do a mini documentary on me and my jiu-jitsu. And the cool thing is we're actually starting filming on Sunday, and we're going to use some of the B-roll that we were going to use for the movie to put together like a 1-minute video of like why me with coaching. Which I'm using for something else, but like the script's already started taking shape, and I think it's going to come out really cool. We talked about it yesterday. So I'm just celebrating all of that coming together like super fast.
I love it. Yes. Look at you. Judo, Bruce Lee. See if you can get Bruce Lee in it.
Okay. Yeah. I probably can.
Or Brandon Lee, maybe. Maybe John Lennon, any of those. That'd be good.
Actually, I do train with a Brandon Lee. That's funny.
Okay. What I'm talking about, Bruce Lee's son, all of them are dead.
Well, I do literally train with a Brandon Lee, and I knew that they were dead. I was just teasing earlier when I said I could do
What's your second celebration?
My second celebration is that I'm just want to celebrate and acknowledge I feel like sometimes I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with you.
You know, sometimes I feel like you have that relationship. I feel that way coming towards me as well. Yeah, sometimes I know you're like, I really want to hate you right now. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. But
if I had a dime for how many people told me that, I would be really wealthy.
Right.
Thank you.
But in all seriousness, I know that our coaching session earlier this week was a little bit challenging, and
for you or for me?
Both.
I wasn't really listening anyway, so it was really easy.
I could tell.
Yeah.
But I do want to celebrate just how great of a coach you are, because yes, I did get kind of mad after that call, which is good. I really needed to. And I knew that at the moment too. And it was just awesome because I think it was that afternoon, like what I've been blocked for like 3 weeks just totally started to flow out. And I've been working on it the last 2 days, and I'm really excited and I'm seeing things shift. And it's good. So
let's hear it. I love it. Very cool. I want to acknowledge you for having that clarity, and I'll acknowledge myself in receiving that gift. Thank you for that. And you know, I think there's a huge piece in that is sometimes with a coach, sometimes in relationships, you have a love-hate relationship. And the question is that person that is in your life doing that and you hate it because they're judging you, or they're doing it because they're serving you. They have empathy and compassion, but they're telling you that truth in love that other people aren't willing to go there for you. And to say, look, here's what I see, and you decide what you're going to do. That's not my work to do, right? But this is just perhaps something that I see in doing that out of enough love that you can serve that person. And it's really up to you to decide whether you want to see that as a gift or whether you want to see that as a blind spot and continue to make an excuse.
Well, and even not letting me off the hook too, you know, to keep holding that space, and not say like, okay, well, Katie, how about this? Or like giving me a little bit of telling me what to do. It was like, you know, really sitting there so that I could figure it out on my own. Which
Was this the? Can I share just a tidbit, because it was actually really funny, because I think what she's referring to is I just said, Katie, what would you do if I just said, I can't do this anymore, I don't respect you, I'm done, I can't coach you. What would you do next?
I was like, I'd get really angry. And then I just started listing off all of these things. And I knew where it was going, but I was mad too. I'm like, screw you. I can do it. And he's like, okay, good. Write all that stuff down. I'm like, fine. I'm going to write it down. And then I started doing it.
So for those that are not in the know, that's called a pattern interrupt. And again, and that really is about, do you have a support group? Do you have people that care enough to do, and do you have enough trust and rapport? Now, the important piece in this, Katie, is you and I have enough trust and rapport. You know that I'm not doing it and that there was any element of that being serious, but it did definitely break the pattern of, wait a minute, you're not playing the role of who I want you to play. It's like, no, that's not serving you right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to serve you in a way that serves you.
Well, and the interesting thing for me too was I've been thinking a lot about my DISC assessment. And even though like I was very genuine in what I put in my coaching prep form about how I appreciate how much support you've given me, it kind of made me think too of like, okay, being a high D and a high S and being stuck because I didn't have a plan. Like you told me before, what do I go to? And that's like super high I, which is trying to engage other people to like kind of make me feel good and like, you know, celebrating them or like, for lack of a better word, like charming them, you know. Mm-hmm. And I still feel very genuine in what I wrote, but at the same time, it made me think like, oh, I wonder if part of that was like, I'm feeling stuck and this isn't working. So I'm also going to focus outward on someone else. And you didn't let me get away with that either.
Yep. So the reason that we're talking about this is we've already transitioned into today's time, okay? And that is, where are you in an inspiring or aspiring identity of who you want to become? And I don't remember, was this last week, Katie, that we had talked about or was this a separate conversation? The difference between setting a goal, your purpose, and what we had talked about is who you want to become.
I know that we talked about it in our session, but I do think we talked about it last week also, because you were showing the chart with your different areas of your goals. So
where are you guys in terms of being able to get started and look at what do you want 2020 to look like? Who do you want to become by the end of 2020? So often we look at and we go, oh, I'm going to set some goals. But do the goals actually happen? Or how many of you have actually set a goal only to achieve it and go, crap, that's not really what that didn't really do it for me. That didn't really fill me up. So I want to take the rest of the time and just open the doors for you all to, are you struggling to get started? Are you struggling to see how do I pull it together? Are you struggling with the frame? Where do you need help in order to start the process, for David's benefit to really make sure that you have clarity and passion for 2020? And Bart's starting his computer.
Chad, what I think has really happened for me when I was talking to you about um, the Ninja Warrior training and really going and starting to work out and starting to do something and really tapping into all the things that were super fun.
You better do it because I'm like really excited for you about it.
Thank you. I went
Make
back.
no mistake, that wasn't empathy, that's judgment, okay? That's really about me getting enjoyment.
But I went back 3 weeks later after doing strength training and I saw how much better I got. Like I saw, oh wait, that was easier. Oh wait, I can swing and not look like I'm like a danger in process. Like, wait, hold, like grab her, like I actually looked like I had strength.
People are taking bets on you. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because I'm doing it with 20 to 25-year-olds, and then I'm 50, right? It's like they're just like monkeying it through, and so what I realized is I saw improvement, which I think really made a difference. And then also in my business, which I haven't really talked about in here, but since I moved to Florida, I've really been struggling with deciding even if I want to keep going with the clarity work. Like that's what's really been up with me for like the last 3 months. Like I just was like, I don't want to do it. And what I realized is I am such a nurturer. I'm such about community, supporting, being involved in something that matters like this. And when I came to Florida and shifted my entire network, everything to do with my business, all those other pieces were the parts that I didn't love. And then I spent more time in what I didn't love than what I did love. And so being able to come back to what really matters most to me and get clear on that when we were doing the purpose work, I was like, okay, what really matters to me? And when I did that, I was invited, when I opened that up and I got clear on that, I was opened up to an invitation to work with Bank, and Bank fills all those buckets for me and actually makes my clarity work even more powerful.
Yeah, so what I love about that, Christiana, is there's a couple of pieces that really 3 pieces that I hear for you going into 2020. The first is understanding it's a mindset change, right? You have to have a mindset of, I have choice. The second is often what I see happen is then people identify, and I heard you say, I'm not this. But there's a trap with that. A lot of people will then, that's the power god of I'm not this and I'm taking a stand for myself. But if we're not this, we have this huge void that's now empty, saying I'm not this. And the human condition has to do what with that hole, with that gap?
Fill it.
Has to fill it. And if you don't have something empowering to fill it with, a new identity, what are you going to fill it with?
Your old one.
Yeah.
The old one's going to keep going back. And the simplest example of that are people who say, I haven't smoked in X number of days. They still see that gap as I'm using discipline, but I'm still a smoker. And so the third piece in that is then defining who do we desire to become, or what is that inspirational or aspirational identity, creating a new identity.
Yeah.
And then the fourth piece in that is then you said, okay, how am I going to make that happen? And so that was really kind of the process that I did when I went down to the Virgin Islands, and Bart was really supportive in helping me go through that process, was really saying, okay, who do I aspire to be? And what are the qualities? So you said, okay, wait, I can go in, I can actually learn from this and see what do I need to do in order to actually become that thing. So it's integrating that doing in that being to become.
Well, and I think there's a really large piece in there, which is I had spent so much time trying to be in stability that I wasn't willing to let that go to see what else would show up. And what's fascinating was like, I was so stuck on the hamster wheel. And Freddie really got with me and said, I only want you to do what you love. And anything that you don't love, just let it go. Like let's enjoy life. And then I then I looked at, I wanted to build something that was leverageable, right? I want to have something that's going to, if I'm going to spend the next 10, 15 years or something, I want to build something that's going to build leverage, not just as soon as I stop, it stops. And so
Yeah.
I really shifted that. And then I just allowed myself to identify what I loved and then just started looking for that. And then something else emerged, but I had to let go. And that was the scariest part. You and I had lots of conversations in the middle of that. And I was like, oh, I don't want to,
Yeah.
you know, let anyone down. And I so love the work that I do, and I still do that, but I'm not doing it in a way that.
How many people for you as well, Christiane, how many of you find it so much easier to let go when you have something to actually grab a hold of?
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? To say just let go is scary. But when you say I can let go of this because I have something else that I can actually grab onto, is way more empowering. Bart, you were going to say something.
Yeah, one nuance that I'm discovering, and I'm implementing this on my daily Carpe Diem sort of, and I still need to show you a digital copy of that, Chad. But it's what's the experience I want to have as well. And so, Christiane, you're just using the word love just now, but I think what's neat about the work that Chad was doing over there in St. John's, I came to realize as well, which I know he's doing, is not just who am I being as an identity, but what are the specific experiences that we get to have, and whether it's achievement, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's excitement, and then that extra nuance makes it even more interesting, and that's what I'm discovering for myself.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so with this, where do you guys, I mean, this is the time for you to be starting a frame, getting some definition, being able to put together the be, do, become. So by the end of 2020, you can look back and go, man, that was so much better than 2019. This is a year to remember in a good way. So where are you guys, what do you need help with?
Well,
By the
there's
way, what? Carpe
Diem, seize the day.
Seize the day. I'm going to offer you Carpe o Sacrum.
What, grab my ass?
Seize the holy bone.
So I got this really cool technique, by the way, so I can grab the sacrum by the ass, is mind mapping.
We're going to have to cut that out. Yes, mind mapping. If we only had somebody that had some experience in that. Yes,
Yeah.
mind mapping. Okay. Mind mapping, it's funny because I think Katie was doing that without knowing that she was doing that actually earlier this week. So what about mind mapping? What do you need help with?
No, I don't need help. I got all the help I need.
Okay, well, that was really wonderful.
No, she's down there, right over there. Right there.
All right, what do you guys need help with? This is your time.
First of all, Chad, I just want to acknowledge you that we're talking about next year now. It's like we have 80 days to be like, okay, we get to marinate on it instead of rush into it. It's like I think the part that was the scariest was the letting go instead of coming up with a solution, which is just another rabbit hole, right? Just another hamster wheel to get on. Like we have 80 days to design who we want to be and how we want to be and see what shows up. So the fact that we're starting the framework now is fantastic.
So the nuance in that is you have 80 days. And 80 days is one type of energy. New Year's is another type of energy. Another way of saying that is this is 80 days to empower. This is force. And force you're going to wear out. Empowering is about generating. So who feels really good about their plan? You already have it in place, or you're like, yeah, I know what I need to do, but I'm not blocking it. How do you guys want to use the time? I'm going to just sit back and
Well, I'm just going to throw a challenge I had this morning. Not so sure if there's an answer that I don't know of, but my plan was this morning to actually work on it and then I got thrown a bunch of curveballs. And it's like I was hoping to have something further along with my mind mapping that I started a week before I went to St. John's. You know, one of the challenges, I guess, that I have is you say 80 days. It's like, well, you know, I have enough time to do it. And before you know, that 80 days is gone. So besides essentially just making sure it's on the schedule, not sure what else I might need to do. So that's just a challenge I had this morning. I don't know if you have any insight you want to share.
Well, I'll tell you on some of that. So, for example, as I shared, like I'm looking at my emotional aspects right now, and it is I've shared with some of you, and you can laugh, but I'm actually deadly serious about this. Is my goal, my aspiration is so big and lofty that it really excites me, and I don't really have like the marquee identity. I know what it is, but like there's no word that really or phrase that grasps or encapsulates the whole thing. But it is really to be sought as a wisdom leader, right? A Billy Graham, a Dalai Lama, a
Wow.
Tammy Faye, and no, Katie doesn't know who that is, but be able to really be seen as Te Poroho, Katie would know, is to be sought as a wisdom leader. So I have 80 days that I can look at that and say, okay, what are the characteristics of that behavior? So two things came to mind, and one of them was, what did Te Poroho's training consist of? How did he become guided? And so in those 80 days, I can find some time and say, hey, I'd like to get some time with you to just listen and hear what was the journey that you began to do this. Another was to sit with a senior pastor and say, hey, I'd love to have a relationship. And he goes, fine, go off to the Virgin Islands. Let me see if I'm really excited, but I want to make sure I have the capacity. Let's connect when you get back. So I did. And he goes, okay, great. Let's connect on the 25th. So another 2 weeks from now, right? And so it's about saying, in order for me to get the ball rolling in 2020, Bart, there are things I need to do beforehand. So another one of those might be, what are the new healthy routines that I would need to put in place? And then literally putting them on the calendar. So things like lasting, things like what's a process that I could use if I'm going to pick up the phone and work with customer support. Because let me tell you, customer support might be the final frontier for me to become a wisdom person, because man, do they trigger me. And you know what's one of the simplest things about that drives me nuts? You guys are going to laugh at me. You know what drives me nuts when you get on customer support? Take a guess.
The recording?
The recording drives me nuts.
Following the script.
Following the script drives me nuts.
Not answering your
They're
questions.
not from America.
Not answering your questions.
Yeah, so we know all of the things, but this is going to feel like the weirdest thing to you all. What drives me nuts is when they ask for your name and then they address me by my first name. I don't know you. I'm Mr. Cooper. Do not call me by my first name. You haven't earned that privilege yet.
Why don't you
How
just
many
get
of you?
that name?
How many of you find the difference in somebody's behavior when they address you by your last name versus your first name?
Yep.
Yep.
Think about it for a second. Is there a difference in the respect and the way, the tonality of how they actually support you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's a reason behind it.
Okay.
Because I just thought of this. I don't know if it's true, but I can think of one reason. If we're on friendly basis, hey, Chad, you're less likely to get really pissed off at me.
How many of you, I think that you're onto something, but how many of you actually find that to be true?
Mm-hmm.
How many of you find that you're less irritated? Try it. Just try it sometime the next time. And be polite. Like, you know what? Don't mean to be offensive, but if you could address me by my last name, that would be so much better. You'll be amazed at how many of them didn't even hear that.
Really?
No, and then I was on hold for 1 full hour of Bank of America, by the way, with a recording. And at the end of it, they just don't hear you. You ask, I tell them, when I'm really upset, I say, look, I'm really upset. And I say it in that tone of voice.
Mhm.
But then it escalates when they don't actually hear what you're asking or and it's crazy.
So if this is something that happens for a lot of people, it's also something that prevents us from being our best version of ourselves. And so in those 80 days, I can take the time to say, what are healthy routines I need to use before and during a customer support call? And I may need to have a bullet list, right? And one of them may be, if I'm going to operate with integrity and they choose not to, is just simply have enough time to say, thank you, I'll call back later, and hang up.
Yeah, I've done
And
that.
not compromise my character.
Yeah, I've done
Another may be on how you refrain it. I was on the stair stepper. It was my first stair stepping. It was, okay?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at I have to avoid the stair stepper because I'm not coordinated enough to
I'm
do
not
it.
surprised by that at all, Katie.
Really? And you're martial arts?
Yeah, no, the stair stepper. The last time I went on it, I put it up too high. I was
Focus.
like, this is so easy.
Katie,
It was bad.
focus.
I know.
All right, so
I have something
stair
to bark
stepper
tonight
is
later.
a marker, milestone for me, right? On my Achilles recovery, I'm walking over 3 miles at a time, and I'm now doing stair stepper. So I'm starting to build. And I get on, and these two girls come up about 7 minutes in, and I went, okay, maybe I'm being overly sensitive. So I listened. For every single sentence, could they actually speak without dropping a G,
Right.
JD, a G, or JC, GD, or an F bomb? They
Or
literally couldn't say a single sentence without it. And so
Or like.
finally, what's that?
They say like all the time too.
Like. And so finally I went, okay, how do I want to show up in this? Because it was offensive to me. And so do I need really an operating manual or some healthy routines when I'm triggered to be able to catch that? I've got 80 days to start formulating that.
Chad?
So where is that going on for you, Bart? That here's what you aspire towards, but you need to start blocking these out in your calendar to build the muscle, to reinforce the behavior.
Yeah, I think my thing. I realize where I'm at, and I shared with you. I've got my 4 quadrants. I kind of borrowed that from you. And the 4 quadrants were, one is me as one major quadrant, and then the other 3 businesses that I'm doing is the other quadrants. And what I notice is that I have so much coming at me all at once that I don't have a visual of that right in front of me. That's a constant reminder that I must take care of this. And I'm still not great at scheduling. And so, doing a great job at that will obviously make it easier. But I like what you're saying is, in essence, getting what would be motivating or inspiring for me is actually what you just said. And that is essentially not waiting for 2020 to come along, but actually mentally, spiritually, emotionally, energetically getting ready. So not just the plan itself, right, which is getting that ahead of schedule. But I like what you said, getting the habits, developing the habits, and really truly developing that momentum in that beingness so that I know that I'm running on the first day of January.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What helped me that I wanted to add to your question, Bart, and this is what Chad and I talked about too, and what he said with his process in the Virgin Islands was not giving yourself the freedom to not have to do it all at once. And so for me, it was like I was feeling so blocked and like I couldn't even, I don't know. That's what I just kept coming back to. I don't know. And so I switched it to like, okay, well, what do I know? Can I list out where I'm at right now? Because I was getting so caught up on what does success look like? I don't even know. It's like, well, wait a minute. I've been in stability for a while. What am I already doing right now? And so that felt doable in the amount of time that I had. So I just started with that little bit. And then I put it away, and then I came back to it later. And the other thing that helped for me was also it gave me that, again, that sense of where am I at now? So now I can see, okay, do I want to change that? Do I want to keep it the same? How do I want to change that this year? And what I noticed through my process too was that in years past when I've set goals, it's been focused on the doing. So very much like, okay, I want to accomplish this, 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 and this. But this time I was able to include the being side of it. And since I don't feel super clear on my purpose right now, it ended up being like affirmations about myself, like I am sentences in, my financial section, my spiritual section, my emotional section, my relational section. And so it's just interesting because what I'm kind of sitting with now is realizing that there's, like in spiritual, for example, there are things that I can check the box that I'm doing, but so much more of it is about that being side of it that's going to come out of my perspective or the other things. So
Yeah. So that was one of the questions that you had, Katie, is what's the difference between my purpose and doing in beingness?
mm-hmm.
If I'm serving my purpose, aren't I being? And so, I can tell you one of my purpose, one of them is lives positively impacted and transformed. That's part of my purpose in life. But can I be a total prick in the process of doing that?
Yes.
No, I thought you were, but that's okay. I mean, why would you ask?
Because it was hypothetical. Okay. So in the next 80 days, I'm going to give you 3 things and invite you to really spend some time with. And that is proximity. Might want to write these down. So first is proximity. The second is unity in community. And the third is parlay. Because if you're going to hit the ground running in 2020, might some of us have some smoothly worn ruts from years of repeated patterns that are trying to keep us into a groove? So what do I mean by proximity, unity/community, and parlay? What do those have to do with becoming your purpose and your goals?
What's your sounding board?
Yeah, that's your community and unity. Who are you associating yourself with? Parlay is Latin for
Talking.
Conversation, dialogue. So if you look at the word parliament, we covered this last week. Parliament is a group of people who debate or have communication to address something. And so what about proximity? What does proximity have to do in the next 80 days to you achieving your goals in the next year?
Am I positioning myself in a way that I can actually achieve or accomplish them?
Yeah. So how many of you actually have somebody that you'd like to have more proximity to? If they're really remarkable people, you think that might take some time to actually foster or develop that opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we often think of that silo of goals for ourselves, but what about your environment and your proximity to other people in your community, and just being still and listening can actually serve you to set that stage so that January 1, the curtains open and you give the Oscar performance of your career. Actually, that'd be more like a Tony, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oscars don't have stages. They have a set. I digress. I don't know why I bother. Why do I even show up?
You know, Chad, I want to share with you with something that I've been playing with in my life is in the past, I would set these lofty goals and I would take on a lot of stuff. And what I've been playing with over the last 3 weeks is a concept called not adding time. And doing my calendar and adhering and planning everything out in my calendar is something that has been a massive challenge. Are you laughing at me? Is that why you took your video off?
No, I'm not laughing at you.
Okay. But anyways, I've been playing around with this idea of not adding time. So instead of saying, oh, I'll do that later, or, oh, I'll put this off, or, oh, I'll get to that, I do it right then, or I put it in my calendar and give it a place. And it has, the first 2 weeks of doing it, I was just digging myself out from underneath Mount Everest of all the things that I had committed to, but I hadn't done. So what it was doing was stealing my energy. And now that I've been playing with it, I see that my tendency is to overcommit. And so looking at this in the past, I would have looked at this process and then just immediately started overcommitting. And now what I'm getting a much more realistic view of what I can do, or now it's showing me that the power of leverage. And now it's like, oh, how can I create leverage in order to be able to have this experience? And it's really made such a big difference because, I mean, even something like adding time for self-care, adding time for spiritual time, all of that has been, I just didn't realize how insidious it was in my life. And I was able to do that because I wasn't using the calendar, but it eliminated procrastination, and it had me adopt my calendar in a very empowered way. So
awesome. How many of you saw, I'm going to speak to what you just said and respond to it by, how many of you saw the school teacher posting that I put up yesterday on the group?
Mm-mm.
So as you're looking at what you're doing, because I heard two commonalities. Bart was beating himself up a little bit about scheduling diligently. Christiana is about taking time and carving that space for herself, okay? And so I want to just share with you this post that I did yesterday. And one day a school teacher wrote
I love this one.
on the board the following: 9 times 1 is 7, 9 times 2 is 18, and it goes on. When she was done, she looked to the students and they were all laughing at her because of the first question, which was wrong. And then the teacher said, I wrote that first one wrong on purpose because I wanted you to learn something important. This was for you to know how the world out there will treat you. You can see that I wrote the right thing 9 times, but none of you congratulated me on it. But you all laughed and criticized me because of one wrong thing I did. So that's the world that we do live in. And so the question for you is, are you surrounding yourself in the proximity of people that are there to champion you?
Mm-hmm.
The people that are going to support you? Are you in a community of unity or discord? Are you in proximity to people that can help you with those 9 things and then maybe find something that can actually mask the weak one? You will probably never be great at one thing in life. That's why a president has cabinet members, to diminish their weakness and actually add leverage and make everything strong. And you can see this in a board for a corporation. A church has elders. And on we see this being modeled. And do you parlay? So one of the things that I'm doing over the next 80 days is asking my wife, what qualities does she wish to see me grow towards? You want to have trust and vulnerability? Ask your spouse that, or ask a family member. But are they going to look at the one or at the 9 things that they see are your gifts and talents and encourage you to move towards that? So you have 80 days to get that feedback, to break bread with people that can help you decide what's the character of who I want to become in 2020. Other questions, comments?
You know, I really think it's fascinating how we're so focused on seeing what's wrong and I've made a very conscious change over time. And actually, when I was expressing about my schedule, if you also heard the language, it was like, yeah, I'm looking to make it work great. And so in the past, I would have, and I still a little bit kind of beat myself up, but more so as focus, okay, what is right? And I think that makes a big difference. And you're spot on, because it's always also about, you know, getting, you know, filling up with that energy when you can identify, and when you're looking and you can identify what's great versus what's not.
Mhm.
And it's a hell of a lot more fun that way as well.
Yeah.
And I still beat myself up way too much.
Yeah. And that's called being human. That's the human condition. And so that's why I have I started, it was actually in the afternoon, and I found I wasn't doing it consistently. So I moved it to the first thing in the morning. Well, not like first thing, because I've been up since 3:30. So I have it at 7 a.m. every day. And that is my gratitude journal. 10 things that I have gratitude towards,
But
to
let me,
remind myself what is right in a world that wants to point out what's wrong. Why? Because pointing that out, by the way, is the Neanderthal mind in us of protect and always be on guard. So there is a purpose to it.
let me add something though. And my profile, as you know, is aesthetic. And you know what that means is that my environment has to make sense according to my rules. And when it's not, then you know that's when you know the challenges or the blocks or the frustrations show up. And so it's interesting then, because I'm recognizing then, well, great, well, then what is it in that environment? You know, you talk about proximity. What is it in that environment that I need to change to allow that flow to happen? And understanding the value of flow so much more now today than before, it's realizing, well, it's not just me or it's not me that's the problem. It's my environment that needs to change. And that's sometimes a challenge though, especially when you have a partner, and how that can really screw things up, because at some point, you know, we also do recognize our own limitations, and it's not just so much that we have the limitation in and of itself being the issue, but what's the issue is that limitations limits what you want to do, and then it gets really annoying.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, especially in IT, and this is what drives me nuts, Chad, thank you very much. But for the most part, I think I'm pretty good at IT, but every time that I get stuck and I go to Chad, he points out the most obvious thing is like, dude, how did I miss that? But so my problem sometimes is, like this morning, it had nothing to do with me, why I'm screwing around with the video and all this shit. It's actually a computer problem. But sometimes I don't know the difference. Is it me, you know, or is it technology? And that nuance for me is not always that clear.
So what I would encourage you guys to do, and Christiana, you kind of touched on this, is in that 80 days, where are you carving out the time? I find great value, serenity, solace, revigoration, we'll just call that vigor, in being still.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us that are on here really struggle with truly being still. And what would it look like on the other side of that if you were to be able to do that?
Yep.
Blocking that time to be able to serve, being still. That's where your best genius and creativity may come forward. All right, I will see all of you a week from now. Get the word out. In the meantime, have an awesome one, and share your discoveries. Share what you got planned. I want to hear what you guys have planned for 2020, because mine's looking really juicy, delicious, and exciting. You guys are going to be like, holy crap, I might as well give up, because his is just spectacular. And you may. maybe the message today is just give up. So
You're telling, no, you teaching us to be better than you. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. So we'll best you.
there you go. That's the lesson for today. Superior, inferior people.
It's all about competition and winning. That's what I'm getting
Competition,
from
there
this.
you go. I'm glad that this served you all well. That's the
Yeah.
final word for today.
Lots of judgment.
I'm out.
You're all awesome. See ya.
Bye.